Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of What Ted Says, where it's always time to get a fatter wallet and get a bigger net worth. Let's talk today about one of the reasons why your net worth will not grow. This is the subject of why your coworkers talk about you, maybe behind your back. Why do your coworkers talk about you? You know, we can't get away from it today. There's gossip, gossip, gossip. It's happening all the time. And whether or not you like it, people are saying stuff about you all the time. We see it in regular media, in social media, it happens in text, it happens in emails, but there's always somebody commenting about somebody. So let's just start off with the basis of this, that when you're not in the room, people are talking about you. And if you're a manager, then they're probably talking about you sometimes when you're in the room, especially if you're leading a meeting. But the question is, why do coworkers say bad things behind your back? And what can you do to improve your status so you can minimize it, make it less, or even in some cases, utilize that gossip to your advantage to help you grow your income and your career? Let's talk about number one. The first thing that happens all the time and people that get talked about are people that spend all day long in the kitchen. Now, I had somebody who worked for me years ago. I used to call her Snacky Jen. And when I say Snacky Jen, we could never find her because she was always making a snack in the kitchen. It was 10:15, it was snacky time. Pull something out of the drawer, run to the kitchen, and go make herself a snack. 3:15 in the afternoon, it was snacky time. Yes, there was lunch. Yes, there was breakfast. There was an even before I leave the office building snack. But if you're in the kitchen all the time, people will start to get used to that because you're the person who's loitering, the person that doesn't really want to do their job in other people's eyes, even if you're getting it done faster or quicker. So it's okay to go there to get that cup of coffee, to get water. You might even get something from the vending machine. You may even be eating lunch in there, but you don't want to be that person that you're known as that individual who's in the kitchen all the time. Because if you do, your coworkers will most definitely talk about you behind your back. Well, number two is that your desk looks like it just got hit by Hurricane Katrina, and that's going to be a problem. Listen, do you know what happens when you take a day off of work, which you're totally entitled to? Everybody snoops around your desk. Yeah, you can lock those desk drawers. And by the way, if you don't lock those desk drawers, I promise you 100%, even though it's against company policy, that people are going to look through your drawers. But most certainly, they're going to be looking at your desk. And honestly, the more crazy your desk looks, you might think it's funny. That's when people start talking about you behind your back. They're saying, hey, I noticed that picture on there doesn't match the picture of the person that you're dating. It might not even be your spouse, and people don't know why you have a picture of somebody who's not your spouse, especially if you don't tell people the story. Now, you may have some unique things that are on your desk, so maybe you root for a certain team, whether it's professional sports or college sports, and that's just gonna be fun. But you don't wanna make your desk too cluttered and clunky, because when you do, often people will see you as irresponsible. They'll see you as disorganized, even if you are organized. So I always recommend leaving the day with a clean, neat desk. You may have a couple of personal artifacts, but the more things you have on your desk, the more loco people are gonna think you are, and they're gonna talk about you behind your back. So number three is you're either the office lampshade or you're the office slut. You don't wanna be either of those. Listen, I know there are holiday parties. I know there's going to be summer parties that you have and things like that. You definitely don't want to be a lampshade, and you definitely don't want to be a slut at one of those big parties, because you know what? Everybody is watching who is going to get hammered. But you know where it's worse? Here's where it's worse, and when your coworkers will talk about you behind your back. It's not the big events. It's actually the small events that when somebody says, hey, do you want to meet up for a cocktail after work, or you want to meet at a local pub, or you're going to lunch and they say, yeah, let's get a martini or a beer during lunch, because people are watching. And even in those mini office events, they're seeing which coworker drinks the most, who spills the beans about other coworkers, and people are always looking for dirt. Remember, they're always looking for dirt. So you never want to be the office lampshade or the office slut. Absolutely, that will get you talked about behind your back, and can hurt your chances of moving up the food chain. And by the way, this applies to both genders, male and female, because both of you could get hurt in the office food chain. The fourth thing is that you absolutely don't want to be Johnny Drama. Are you the kind of person where the waterworks well up at work? Because when they do, people are going to talk about you. Are you the kind of person that every time you come in, you're like, oh no, here's what happened at home, and my dog ate my homework, and my kids got sick, and oh, by the way, I'm not feeling well, I need to leave earlier, I have an errand to run. If you're the kind of person that's constantly that way, and not only will it hurt your career, that's just a given, but by the way, people are gonna talk about you, and it will crush your career even more. So you got a problem? I'm telling you, the place not to solve it is at work. Leave the building, ask politely. Ask your boss, can I just leave for a half an hour? I would rather take my lunch break now. Deal with it outside of the office. It's like being in an airplane. The last thing you want to do is be loud on your cell phone and think nobody's hearing you when everybody hears you. And because we're in an open cubicle type environment today, you never want to take that phone call from home in your cube. You want to take it somewhere in a huddle room or a private room. Otherwise, people are going to hear your dirt, and guess what? It's going to Johnny Drama you into not getting that promotion. And the last one in here is that you take too much PTO and sick days. Now I know this is a very sensitive subject, but any of you who have kids will appreciate what I'm going to say here, which is that kids always keep score. And that means when you give your kids gifts, they're figuring out how much those gifts cost and who got more, and they will stuff that in your face. And by the way, if you don't think your employees at work are watching each other and counting how many days somebody has off, you are wrong. They're watching PTO and watching sick days, and they're watching what management is going to do. But by the way, if you take a lot of days off, I'm not telling you not to use some of your days. I'm just saying if you take all the days, all the time, and ask for more, you're going to find that your coworkers talk about you, and a project comes around and they go, well, let's not count on Charlie. We know she's not going to be here. And they're going to say that, and they do. I know this from 17 years of corporate experience and almost 13 years of owning my own company. People talk about each other when it comes to PTO and sick days. So guess what? Are your coworkers gonna talk about you behind your back? The answer is yes, they most certainly will. The best that you can do is be a good steward of the 5 tips that I gave you here, and you will mitigate and deflect that damage, and there will be somebody else who has a lot worse of those problems will be talked about a lot more. And it can really hurt your career, because if you fall into 2 or 3 of those categories, there's a reason that you haven't moved up from the cube that you're at today. This is your episode of What Ted Says. Remember that I gave you this advice to help you with your career. Be sure to forward this one, because maybe I missed one. Put it in the comments and tell me, is there something that happens at work that I missed now that people are talking about each other behind their backs? Of course, subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you click that notification button. And this is your episode of What Ted Says.